Sometimes when I pick topic to talk about, I don't already know which direction I want to go with that conversation. But other times when I pick topic to talk about, now when I did read up on the topic, now I see they see another interesting, less discussed angle, to that topic, and then I go choose to go in that direction. This conversation about detachment now example of those times where I dey see the direction while I dey read up on the topic. So when we dey use detachment for our daily lives, when we dey use the word detachment for our daily lives, now usually to communicate say we dey remove ourselves from a particular situation or from a particular connection. And we dey do this removal in search of peace, right? But when I dey read up on this topic, I see this bit where talk about peace without denial. And the context was that detachment can also allow us to experience peace without denial. But when you think about this peace without denial, it go only dey possible if we dey willing to admit say there are aspects to our thinking, there are aspects to our living philosophy where they get us into these experiences, into these situations, into these connections where they bring us suffering. So that while we they detach ourselves from these situations, while we they separate ourselves from these connections and situations, we also need to cut ties with the parts of ourselves or parts of ourselves where they get us into, these kinds of situations where they bring us pain and suffering. You get a lot of my resolution on different topics when I don't speak about. They usually come down to, looking ourselves in the mirror and doing that work from the inside out, not only on the surface level, where in this case you just remove yourself from the situation physically, right? Or you sever that connection physically. I dey usually, suggest that the work be done also on the inside. You understand? So this conversation on detachment builds on that same idea. Look inside, do the work from the inside out. You get, so that as we say, for example, you cut ties with someone, right? Might use person to person example. Say, for example, you cut ties with somebody because you notice some kind of villain archetype inside them where they negatively affect your life as you day in that connection with them. Always remember, as you dey sever that tie, always remember to observe yourself closely, to like really look inside of yourself and try to figure out why you have a craving for that kind of connection, why you have a craving for that kind of situation. 19, I won't say 99%, but I am more flexible. 90% of our problems can be curtailed, can be fixed by looking at ourselves and solving it, either solving it directly inside of ourselves or fixing the parts of ourselves where they attracted to that problem, fixing the parts of ourselves where they drawn to that problem. You get, a lot of what I'm saying is very vague, but sometimes the things where they bring us pain and suffering, right? To us, we still dey feel say those things now waiting they cool, right? This idea of something is cool, something is nice. It's the conventional idea of what is nice. We still they live on the basis of, oh, this is what cool is, right? So we accept that when it comes, we welcome it into our lives, and that becomes the source of this pain and this suffering, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about here, so that you go feel use them as touchlight to understand what it feels like when you notice that craving. You get, so when you sever ties, when you move away, remove yourself from connections and situations, always remember to check yourself and figure out why you have a craving or had a craving for that kind of connection, for those kinds of situations, in the first place. And then when you figure out those cravings or you figure out the why, you now find the strength and, you know, disown yourself from the craving or from that why. You get, this now one of the many ways where you fit to create long-term peace and fulfillment for yourself. My name now is Sas, and I will see you for the next video.